It was still common in the 1950s, especially in the southern states, to have blacks-only restrooms, drinking fountains, and seats on buses. In 1946, the Supreme Court had ruled making blacks sit in the back of buses while white passengers sat in the front was unconstitutional. In 1955, the Interstate Commerce Commission ruled blacks could sit wherever they wanted on buses that traveled through more than one state. Even after this, blacks were still being treated unfairly. Congress of Racial Equality proposed freedom rides. They were designed to test the laws against segregation. A group of blacks and whites would board buses headed for the South. The blacks would sit in the front and the whites would sit in the back. At rest stops, the blacks went into the whites-only areas, and the whites went into the blacks-only areas. Freedom riders expected trouble from white Southerners, who were against desegregation. The group of individuals which volunteered to ride the buses were called Freedom Riders. They rode interstate buses into the segregated southern United States in 1961 to test the United States Supreme Court decisions, Boynton v. Virginia and Irene Morgan v. Commonwealth of Virginia. James Leonard Farmer Jr. was the main initiator and organizer of the 1961 Freedom Ride, which eventually led to the desegregation of interstate transportation in the United States. He later on wrote an autobiography containing the following excerpts. "I was scared all the time in the 60s, and anyone who wasn't was a liar or totally without imagination. Courage, after all, is not being unafraid, but doing what needs to be done in spite of fear." The first Freedom Ride left Washington, D.C., on May 4, 1961, and was scheduled to arrive in New Orleans on May 17. 7 blacks and 6 whites traveled south on 2 buses. They first met trouble in Rock Hill, South Carolina, where 20 white Southerners hurt 2 people before the police arrived. On May 20th, the Freedom Riders got on another Greyhound bus heading to Montgomery, Alabama. The police disappeared when the Freedom Riders entered Montgomery. The bus terminal was eerily quiet. As the Freedom Riders got off the Greyhound, a mob of 300 angry people attacked them with baseball bats, pipes, and sticks. One black rider was covered with kerosene and set on fire. The civil rights movement was in the news. The Freedom Riders continued to Mississippi. There they faced more beatings. In Jackson, Mississippi, on May 25, 1961, many Freedom Riders were arrested and unfairly put in jail. The attention inspired more Freedom Rides. The Freedom Ride spread to train stations and airports across the South. With all the attention, President Kennedy was pressured to help the blacks. In late September of 1961, Robert Kennedy requested the ICC to make rules banning all segregated seating in interstate terminals and vehicles. This ruling was more specific than the 1961 Supreme Court decision. The Freedom Riders made an important contribution to ending discrimination in the South.
I'm on my way.
The Freedom Rides of 1961 were a simple but daring plan to deliberately violate the segregation laws of the Deep South.
I won't turn back.
There's a possibility that we might be arrested. This is the only trouble that I anticipate.
You could see baseball bats and pieces of pipe.
The women, they were screaming, "Kill them niggas," and they had babies in their arms.
One fella had a pitchfork.
We will make sure that people traveling in interstate commerce and traveling across our highways are not molested. That's all I ask for.
And you just can't guarantee the safety of a fool, and that's what these folks are, just fools.
I told the operator to tell the president that I was not there. I lied. I just lied.
Maybe it takes something like this for the federal government to see that Alabama is not going to place any limit upon itself. It must be imposed from without.
It was horrible. It was like a scene from hell. It was the worst suffering I'd ever heard.
How was that feeling? I'd just like to punch some of them damn agitators right in the face. I gotta hate somebody. I got to hate somebody.
You're saying that you're gonna start a movement and then you quit.
Your
parents tell you, don't start something that you can't finish. Finish it.